Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, take a look through the content. If you like what you see, please like and share it, and then also subscribe. And then that way, every time I put something out, it'll give you a notification. I have been putting out a lot of shorts recently that's based off of so I'm coaching at Metro BJJ or Metro Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm also coaching at Cat Paw. I coach wrestling there for no-gi situations, right? So that people can learn how to wrestle. And I know that this is important because I know that there will be rule changes that happen, and then they're going to put more focus on stand-up because all other grappling styles have done this because it's exciting and because it brings in viewers, right? And why, if you live in the United States, you might think that jiu-jitsu is extremely popular, but compared to like wrestling, it's actually not. There's far more participants in wrestling than there are in jiu-jitsu. But, and this is the topic of the video today, right? Is um where do wrestlers go? Because for most people, after they're done with high school, they have nowhere else to go because there's just not a lot of like adult wrestling clubs, and the ones that do exist are usually like training places, right? Like training centers to get people ready for much more senior level stuff. And that's not somewhere you want to learn how to wrestle, and it's often somewhere you're not going to wrestle. Like if you were a high school wrestler and you're like good, but you're not like trying to go to the Olympics, right? So jujitsu's done a fine marketing job of bringing people in, and and I think it's great for people, especially for people who've never done any grappling at all. But for former wrestlers, I do jujitsu and I do judo right now, and I see judo as being like the best route for wrestlers because the rule sets are so close to freestyling Greco that it's like there'll already be this understanding, right, of like execute the throw, pin the opponent, right? Don't get turned to a pin if they like if you fail a throw or you stop a throw or whatever and they end up on your back, right? So it's just like freestyling Greco. They'll break it up if there's no action happening and you stand back up. Then along the way, you'll also learn like some jujitsu, right? Because judos and jujitsu are very similar in that regard, where learning how to escape a pin to get to half guard or whatever. In judo, they'll call off the pin if you have half guard. So that's all you really need. And if you have a good jiu-jitsu background, you can sweep the person, get them in a pin, or submit them afterwards, like in the advanced division, and with an armbar or choke. So it's really really cool because you're going to learn additional things, and then you're also going to learn how to deal with somebody wearing a jacket because when they go to throw you, you can't just use the tough guy attitude and slipping that you can in wrestling. No, there's no slipping with a jacket on. Now you actually have to learn how to really stop the throw with your hips. And this is really important and great for American wrestlers who did not really get the best upper body wrestling. Most people in the United States, unless they did Greco or something, right, didn't do a lot of upper body wrestling. They think that they're good at it, right? And they all lat drop people who are like lower levels than them, or when they go up against somebody their own rank, they pull them on their back, right? And so, the upper body wrestling in the United States is pretty bad, okay? So it can give you a huge advantage, like learning these systems in judo if you decide that you want to do jujitsu too, because I do believe that the rule sets will change eventually where people prioritize standing up on the feet because it's exciting and it brings in more viewers. And frankly, like, if these grappling styles are simulating, right, fights, that's what a lot of them were sportified to make them more safe, right? But also to bring in the context that you're going to start a fight in a standing situation, right, in real life. And if for nothing else, having a good wrestling background and having a good judo background, right, will prevent you from getting taken down. Because if somebody's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and they have a really good ground game on the street, I do not want to go to the ground, right? Like I want to prevent that from happening, and bad things can happen on the ground with weight and punching and stuff like that, right? So if for nothing else, right, the self-defense aspect of it, like in the arts that we're trying to learn, right, that you can need to take the fight to the ground under the terms that you have, and judo is really good at that because unlike the opinions of some people who never did wrestling or judo, who talk a lot online, the throws in judo are actually meant to have lots of control. When people say like, "Oh, an uchimata just results in a roll through," they have no idea what they're talking about because the Japanese will do that because they want the back to completely cover so that they get an ippon off that throw. They don't have to do that. They're not. That's not part of the throw, right? They're doing that to try to get the score where they want. It's not that an uchimata results in a roll through. It ends up with you on top. Okay, that's most of the time what's going to happen. In practice, sometimes people will roll off of you because they don't want to smash you and stuff like that. But in competition, it's to get the back scoring. It's not inherent to the throw. Okay, and if you did any of it, then you would know that. And so when people talk about it like that, they don't know what they're talking about. And in jujitsu, there's way more people who have no wrestling background and no judo background teaching wrestling and judo. That's a problem. Okay, so here's what I would propose to be a really good thing to happen. Would be to have wrestlers go into judo and then learn the system. And then along the way, they're going to see the importance of doing good groundwork, right? Because you can win it on the ground and in judo. Then, at the same time, start training jujitsu, right? And then once you become like a shodan in judo, you know the system, so you can teach it to people. And then you'd have people who are wrestlers, former wrestlers, and judo black belts going into schools where they can also then help people to do more stand up and learn these things that we already know work, right? We already know that these things work. Okay, people are always trying to reinvent that stuff in jujitsu, and it always ends up coming back full circle to good wrestling technique works, good judo technique works, right? And those people who have judo and wrestling coaches do better on their feet. But the reason that I think wrestlers ought to go into judo is because in jujitsu, there's no rule right now that make people have to stand or break up the action off the ground and stand it back up. The closest thing, and there is that, is UWW rule set, right? And that's for grappling. And it's actually kind of cool. It's like a blend between wrestling and jujitsu. And it does allow when you want a ref to intervene because the stalling, right? Everybody in every grappling sport can stall, but in every other grappling sport besides jujitsu, the ref will intervene and break it up and be like, this is going nowhere. Stand them back up, right? And or reset. It's not that people shouldn't go into jujitsu from wrestling because people can just pull guard, right? Because it's a good thing to learn how to play guard. It really, really is. But if you're a competitor and you want to compete, you're going to find out really quickly as a wrestler that nobody wants to wrestle you. And in a lot of places that's the case. Now I'm a coach right at Metro Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm a coach at Capall. I coach wrestling at both of those places, and those people want to know how to wrestle, right? So they're actually going to wrestle. But if you go to most schools, and this has been my experience from my like school that I first went to, and then I've been to a number of other schools, nobody wants to wrestle you when they know you know how to wrestle. Nobody wants to do stand up with you in a jacket when they know that you have a judo background. So, until that culture changes, right? I don't know if it's necessarily beneficial for a wrestler to start off in jujitsu like I did essentially. I did a little bit of judo out of college wrestling, but not a lot, right? It's fun to stand up grapple, okay? And no, like I don't believe that it's inherently so much more dangerous because I've gotten hurt a lot on the ground in jujitsu. Okay, a lot. And all of my injuries in wrestling, judo, and jujitsu have come from practice, not from competition. So, I've talked about this before, but it's like, and I can, if you're interested in coaching, like on these kinds of things, I can help you, right, overcome some of the fears that are associated with competition because the marketing in jujitsu has been like, you don't need to compete, you don't need to be a tough guy, this and that. Your guy's just going to get hurt. Like, just show up to jujitsu. But that's to keep you in a school in a nice, safe environment and not try things that are difficult. Okay. And there's reasons why people don't compete, and that's totally fine. But if you want to get good fast, I mean, I'm a pretty good example of this as somebody who's almost 46 years old. I've only been doing judo actively for about a year. I started competing in February, right? And I'm doing pretty well. Like, and I think that other wrestlers would too, because they can learn these systems quickly. And now that I'm doing that, it's making my wrestling better. And then I'm helping people better in wrestling now because in a jiu-jitsu context, because of my judo, right? So it all kind of helps. And then I think it's made my jiu-jitsu actually better because of the knowing exactly what I need when I need it in order to make something happen so that I can, take an opportunity because the ref will break it up in judo super quick. So, one last thing is people a lot say stuff like, I'm not going to go into judo because, there's no leg grabs, and that's a diluted form of judo, a watered down version of it. And like when the leg grabs come back, then I'll come in because then I'll be like, good at judo. And I'm like, that's completely delusional, okay? Because I train with people who know the leg grab system and they do sambo, right? Which is basically judo with leg grabs. And like, man, the jacket changes everything. I mean, like, it's harder to get to them because of belt exposure. When you're in on a single, they can reach over and grab your back. They can pull your posture around where they want. They've got access to your wrists when you have the single leg, and you get uchimated pretty easily, okay? And so, no, you're not going to be, if you're a wrestler with no jacket experience or a jujitsu person with jacket experience, and that's not going to like automatically make you amazing at judo. Trust me, it won't. Okay, so that's kind of delusional. And it's interesting that the same people that I find like that are like the people who say that, like, oh, judo is just watered down and whatever, are the same people who are okay with just like guard pulling, like butt scooting, acting as if like that's not a diluted and watered down version of jujitsu, because jujitsu used to be more encompassing of like all the styles, and I believe it will go back there, or else I wouldn't be spending as much time as I am teaching people how to do wrestling. And now I will teach them how to do some stuff with the jacket, okay? Because I'm learning how to do that. And I want you to learn this stuff, right? So I know that they're going to change the rules. And then if you're going to be left behind, if you're super afraid to be on your feet, I don't know why people are so afraid to be on their feet. I get thrown all the time, and I'm almost 46 years old. I'm older than most of the people on this channel, it seems like. And that's what the demographics from YouTube Studio tell me. And so, like, they're complaining about being too old. Well, what about me? I'm older than you. So you're just admitting that I'm tougher than you? Like, no, it's because it's not that bad to get thrown, okay? Like, I get thrown all the time, and you just laugh about it because it's more of a problem of you being afraid of getting your feelings hurt than it is about actually getting hurt. And if you don't know how to fall, that's a problem. You need to know how to fix that, right? And judo schools will teach you how to fall. And just doing like nagi komi, like training throws while you're actually moving around with some resistance, and then do the throw. It'll teach you how to fall. Okay. So I don't think that you should be afraid of it, particularly if you're young coming out of high school. I mean, you're used to being thrown on a 1 inch mat in wrestling. I mean, it's worse than judo. From wrestlers going into judo, they'll have a lot of fun with it. It's really much more similar to like Greco and freestyle, right? The rule sets are really similar. They're gonna have a lot more fun with it. In the beginning, it's along the way is probably going to tell them how important jujitsu is, right? And then feedback into that. And then if they're like Shodan level, which is entry level black belt at judo, then they know enough to be able to teach these like systems, right? The black belt in judo was never like a terminal degree. It's a starting degree. Right, it was never looked at as like now you are the knighted expert of of stand-up grappling with a jacket on. No, it's like that now you understand the system so you can teach it. I do believe it'll benefit jujitsu in the long run to have people go into judo, and if they're wrestlers, they're going to learn the system quick, like I am, and then be able to give back to jujitsu. Okay, that's my plan. That's what I hope people do. I think judo really needs to grow in this country. It's an unbelievable art. It really is. It has solved so many problems. It really teaches you footwork is more important, right? And it'll teach you how to hand fight well and stuff like that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And until next time, I will see you soon. Make sure you watch my shorts videos that I'm putting out on wrestling and BJJ. And see you soon.